Okay, I got this question from one of my YouTube viewers of my finance channel, and let's go ahead and read the question. It says, I've got a situation where I need to calculate the rate of return for a series of erratic cash flows. The following is one example where I keep paying some money every month until the 8th month and I receive $71,000. I then continue to the 20th month. It says the sum of the cash flows is a negative $12,000. We could check that auto sum. Yep, it's a negative 12,000. So in such scenarios, how do I calculate the rate of return? IRR and XIRR fails to calculate. So we could try IRR. Let me do it right here. I go equals IRR, and I go ahead and highlight all these cash flows. And it fails to calculate a monthly internal rate of return. Okay. So why does it do that? So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because it gives us an error. And I'm sure XIR will probably do the same thing. So let's look at the definition of internal rate of return. This is from Investopedia. It says the internal rate of return, IRR, is a metric used in capital budgeting to estimate the profitability of potential investments. The internal rate of return is a discount rate that makes the net present value of all the cash flows from a particular project equal to 0. Okay. IRR calculations rely on the same formula as NPV does. So now we got to look at NPV. And NPV is the difference between the present value of cash inflows and the present value of cash outflows over a period of time. NPV is used in capital budgeting and investment planning to analyze the profitability of projected investment or project. Okay, so NPV is basically you take all these cash flows and you discount them back to the present value using an interest rate. And the IRR is the interest rate when you calculate that NPV, it's the interest rate at which makes the NPV 0. Okay, so first let's just do a test calculation for NPV. So we have to assume an interest rate, and let's assume 1% per month. Okay, 1% per month. 1% would be like 12% a year, right? So that's kind of that's a pretty good return on a project. And so we can calculate NPV, and the NPV, if we use 1% per month, the NPV is going to be equal to, for these cash flows, these monthly cash flows, I use the formula equals NPV. And the first thing it wants is a rate, and we're assuming this rate. And the value, since I say the beginning of the month, I have to take these values. And then the beginning of the month is already at the present value, and I add that in separately. So NPV always considers at the beginning of period 1. Okay, so this is I invested at time 0, so it's already at present value. So I'm just finding the net present value of these starting at the beginning of period 1. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Anyway. So this is not percent. Let's use this a currency. We'll call it dollars. It may not be dollars. It could be, I'll put dollars here. So the NPV is a negative $9,000. So if my cost of capital is 1% per month or 12% per year, if I had to borrow the money, so eventually I might have to borrow the money. These are, well, I have to borrow the money for these cash flows, to happen, and I'm going to get these. But this cash flow is also out at month 8, so I have to discount that back. Well, if I discount them all back to time 0, how much is that worth to me right now? If the cost for me to borrow the money is 12% a year or 1% a month, is going to cost me $9,000. That's telling me at that price, at that cost of capital, I wouldn't want to do this. Okay, so okay, that's fine. But why is IRR not giving me an answer? Well, probably the answer we'll go ahead and graph this, and maybe that'll make more sense. So let me go ahead now, let's do some different rates. Okay, so maybe I'll start at 0%, 1%, and we'll go all the way down to 20% per month. This is a lot, that's very high. 20% per month is 240% a year, right? That's crazy. But anyway, we'll go ahead and do that just so we can see what happens. I'm going to put the NPV right here. And I'm going to make something called a data table to make this real quick. So when you do a data table, you have to, I'm going to be calculating NPV in this column, so I have to put, I've already done the calculation once, so now I wanted to do it for all these. So the way it works, I have to put this in, this equals, this is the NPV calculation. So I'm doing NPV in this column. So you have to kind of do a kitty corner from the different rates you want to calculate NPV. And then you highlight it exactly like this. Then you go to data, what if analysis data table. And it's asking you what you're inputting what. Well, I'm inputting, these are our columns, so I only have to enter in this. Well, I'm changing these numbers. This represents these different numbers in this calculation. And I go, okay. And it gives me this. So let's graph this out. Well, let me copy this format so it looks. So let's graph this out. Here, if you do this at home, your format, you might have to change the format of these numbers when they come out. And then I'm going to go insert. I'm going to insert a graph. And I like the scatter plot with lines connected. That looks kind of nice. And this could be NPV versus cost of capital. Okay. And we can insert some. I can go up here to design and add chart element and go axis titles. Primary horizontal, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go equals, and that would be R, right? Enter. And then I'm going to go here, I'm going to go add chart element, axis titles, primary vertical. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go equals NPV. Okay, so this is the NPV at different costs of capital. And this is a zero axis here. Remember, this is negative, right? So at all these different, now this is monthly, right? This is going all the way from 0% per month all the way up to 20% a month. Nowhere in here do I get a positive NPV. Or does it cross? Basically the thing that has to, in order to get internal rate of return, this has to cross the axis here. Okay? So that's why the internal rate of return is not working. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So as you vary your cost of capital, you know, NPV, this line has to cross, this is the zero axis. NPV has to cross it somewhere, and it's not crossing it. You can see as I go more and more, even if I use a negative interest rate, it's still going to go that way. And if I keep going farther in this way, it's going to keep going that way. It's never going to cross. So you cannot find a solution for internal rate of return in this type of problem. Another thing you might wonder as well, what about the other side of it? I'm doing this. Well, someone else is receiving that, so someone else is getting the exact opposite of this cash flows. So how does it look to him or her or that individual? So I'm going to put a -1 in here. And I'm going to flip this by, I'm going to take this -1 and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it into here. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go paste special. I want to multiply that -1 times all those numbers so it'll flip it. And then you can see, so this is what it, this might be, this is the other person. So this isn't the person here. Now this person is getting $5,000, $3,800, and then finally in month 8 has to pay $71,000. So that $71,000, that's, you know, these are positive cash flows to him. So he doesn't really care about how much this, you know, is going to cost him to borrow money, but he may cost this person, you know, you have to borrow money for that, right? This is, yeah, this is a negative, this is a cash outflow. So the best deal him would be 0%. As it increases, then this is going to go down, right? 1% would be right here at 9,000, right here. So, but it's never going to be a point where he's going to lose money. So it's a pretty good deal for him. Now he's not going to have an internal rate of return either. If I go equals internal rate of return, because there's no way that this computes out either where it's 0. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Internal rate of return, you got to be careful with it. You have to have the NPV cross there, 0 axis. Now sometimes there's multiple internal rate of returns. I have a video, if you go search, I have a video, I'll try to link to it right here. I have a video that shows how to do multiple internal rate of returns. So hopefully that helps. Thanks for watching.